This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
No, you're not alone, 'cause I'm gonna make this place your home.
And we're back. You're listening to Boomer Life on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton, and today we're talking with experts from the BC Seniors Living Association. Executive Director Marlene Williams is here, along with Lydia Miller and Tom Bayless, who are both assessors with the BCSLA. And Michelle Cunnington joins us today, General Manager from Cavell Gardens. So we've set the pace already in the first part of the show by talking a little bit about the association, the services it provides for seniors throughout the province. But now we need your help in understanding the difference between independent living and assisted living. So Marlene, can you help us out with that?
Mm-hmm. So independent living is congregate living, and it combines a combination of housing and hospitality services for seniors, adults, who are able to direct their own care. So it's a very freedom style of living. So you'd move into an apartment building and you'd have your studio or your one bedroom or your two bedroom, and then in the main lobby you would have your place where you'd go for dinner. You'd have a front desk, you'd have a concierge, you maybe have a spa, you may have a hairdresser, you've got a recreational room, you've got a theater. So it would be like living in a apartment building, but you can come and go as you please, yet there's the safety services attached to that, where you have a emergency 24 call system, and when you leave and come and go, you should tell the front desk that I'm leaving, just so you know there's a little watchful eye on where you're going and what you're doing. And the other aspect of the safety is that if someone comes to the building, they have to check with the front desk and sign in. Mm-hmm. So you've got all the freedom you want, but you've still got that safety net there. So if you're an adult that is worried about mom living alone in her house, she'd be, or he would be, much safer from the children's perspective living in an independent living community.
So someone in the independent living community, it's really not a lot different than how they might have lived their first several decades of their life, other than added features of safety, security, mm-hmm. and having the necessary requirements of your environment at your fingertips, whether it's a spa or a hair salon or...
It's the joys of living at home without the drudgery of the chores.
You don't have to worry about fixing your roof. And
you don't have to change light bulbs. You don't have to mow the lawn. You don't have to empty the gutters.
You don't even have to cook.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You don't even have to cook.
Or clean the bathroom.
There you go. Mm. That's true. That's true. Very good points, Lydia.
Yeah.
So, so have we encapsulated independent living then?
Yes.
Okay. Assisted living.
Okay. Assisted living is according to the Home and Community Care Act, the way they define assisted living is it is a semi-independent form of living that's just like independent living, except it's regulated under the Home and Community Care Act, in which that particular individual may require help with assistance with daily living. And that would mean that there are 2 prescribed services. So they might need bathing, grooming, anything that has to do with just the daily assistance of living, and then they would need a second prescribed service, which is medication. Within that act, there's actually 6 prescribed services that are available, but in British Columbia, probably 99.9% of all the independent living communities that house assisted living seniors do the assistance with daily living and the medication, which is basically just a medication reminder. And so it's the same thing. The vision and the philosophy of assisted living is you must be able to direct your own care. Mm-hmm. So it's just like an independent, but just with a little bit more, but not necessarily any kind of care that you would need 24-hour nursing or anything
like a little
like
helping hand. Okay, yeah. So, and Lydia?
And it's even still confusing amongst certain individuals that work in retirement and independent living based on the type of operation they handle. We were called one time by a fully independent operator who said that they have a resident that needs to move out because now they need assisted living services. Okay, well, help us understand. What does that mean? Well, they used to cook in their suite, and now they can't. They used to clean their own suite, and now they can't. They used to go out on their own and do, fun outings and stuff, and now they can't. Well, that to us is helping you maintain your independence and taking away those drudging chores, right?
Yes. So I'm a little bit confused, and I just want to make sure we have clarity on this, just in case a listener could be confused as well. the going into assisted living, would it be and needing having that semi-independent situation, is that because of your limited physical abilities, that maybe you have arthritis or you're not strong enough to get yourself in and out of the tub? Is it just like physical ability, or would it be cognitive ability as well? Or does
it's mainly at this particular point physical ability.
Okay.
When you get into the cognitive ability, depending on what level it's at,
that goes to another level of care?
well, that's really kind of a gray area right now, because
Okay.
there's a very large gray area between assisted living and residential care when it comes to dementia and early stages of dementia.
Correct.
And we're actually working on that with the government
good.
right now, trying to get a medium where if a senior is in a assisted living community and she's starting, or he, very early stages of dementia, she's just kind of forgetful, but wouldn't flourish in a long-term care environment. We're trying to work, and I think you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Michelle, that the individual retirement communities work with the caseworkers at the health authority, and they put all the resources that they can in place to help that senior stay in the community and still remain independent and active for as long as they can.
Absolutely. I think every provider has their own sort of admission criteria. And I know, speaking as, Cavell Gardens, we do have residents come into Cavell Gardens whose mobility isn't that great and might have some cognition deficit. But we work very closely with Vancouver Coastal Health, and through the cluster care program that they provide, people are able to live for many years within an independent, supportive environment. It's
requiring minimal assistance,
minimal
but just
assistance, absolutely.
a little bit of help.
Yep. So mobility can be a little bit of an issue, and a little bit of cognition issue. They can still function very well within an independent, supportive environment.
Excellent.
And thrive in it.
And thrive, most certainly thrive.
Yeah.
And Tom?
I think one of the key values is choices. That is within the independent and assisted living program. I always just very simplistically say that the client in AL and IL, independent and assisted living, they really don't look any different. What is different is what goes on behind the closed door, whether it's a
yes.
shower, helping getting dressed,
Correct.
medication reminder. Some of them are just as mobile, just as cognitive as an independent, and a lot of sites today mix them all together. You don't have a wing that's AL and a wing that's IL. You don't know who is AL in a residence today. Only the care workers do.
Okay. So who actually gets to make the decision about whether you have assisted living or not? Is it someone in the seniors living community? Is it the medical professional or the doctor? Or is it the individual themselves knowing what their physical limitations are? Or how does that get determined?
Well, it's usually determined by the senior or the family. So there's two processes that you can use. If you would like private pay assisted living, then you basically just, get assessed by either your doctor, and you say, okay, I think I would like help with XYZ, and then you have a private pay care worker come in and help you with the assisted living. If you actually want to go through a health authority, then you would need to be assessed by a caseworker, and they would come in and assess your needs, and then they would tell you whether you met the criteria for funded assisted living, which then the health authorities would fund your assisted living services, regardless of whether you're living at home or whether you're going to be living in one of our communities. So the private pay assisted living, if it's a registered assisted living suite, it's not funded, and you can pay privately, but the requirements of how you work with that assisted living senior or the assisted living services remain the same, that falls under the registrar and the Home and Community Care Act.
And one of the reasons we're talking so much about the differences between independent living and assisted living is because it's all going to come full circle now with the types of services and residences and communities available to seniors to live in. Everybody offers a different program within their facility. And this is where the BC Seniors Living Association comes in, having assessed some of these properties and giving them a seal of approval. Tell us how that fits in.
Well, as Tom stated previously, most of the buildings that are BCSLA members, there's a couple that have separate, complete assisted living buildings or wings, but the majority of them are just
Everybody's mixed together.
everybody's mixed in together. And so in the province of British Columbia, there's 213 buildings that are registered with the Assisted Living Registry that provide assisted living services. And within that, there's 7,600 suites. So in the province of BC, there's about 16,000 independent living suites, and then there's an additional 7,600 for assisted living. So that's a lot of suites in the province of British Columbia where seniors can go and thrive and be active and enjoy their golden years, you might say. So I work very closely with an association across the country, our sister associations, and the Ontario Retirement Communities Association had put an accreditation program in their independent living buildings, and I saw it and I thought it was really great, and I sort of chatted with my counterpart there and said, would you consider asking your board to let us use your model to build our own? So we got that approval, and they luckily gave that to us. Then we went around the province, and I went to 3 or 4 different areas, and I invited groups of 5 and 6 and 7 members and said, this is what we want to do. What do you guys think about it? Do you think it would work? Do you think it would not work?
Yeah, does it fit with our conditions here in British Columbia?
Exactly, and does it work? And so first we got an assessment or a consensus of yes, they thought it was a great idea. Then we put together a task force, and those task force rolled up their sleeve, and for the next 7 months we sat there and we looked at every line item in this document. I don't know if you can see it here. It's the seal of approval manual. It's 79 pages. And we went through and said, okay, we need to change that. We need to fix that. No, that's not going to work.
What types of things?
Well,
give like a rough example.
Okay, safety, infection control, staff training, resident services, and we had to add an assisted living section because British Columbia is the only province in Canada that has an official assisted living registry.
Okay.
So we had to add that whole section. So that had to be written from scratch with the help of, at the time, the assisted living registrar. So we would look and say, okay, well, this safety is great, but we have to tweak this a bit because in here it says that they have to get a complete fire inspection every 2 years. Well, in BC it has to be every year. So little things like that we had to go through and tweak. And then they had a whole section on, they had a little bit of long-term residential care in there, so we had to go. So we spent about 7 months doing that. And then we got the book. And then so we sat there and said, okay, is this going to work for everybody? We got big communities, we got little communities, we got urban, we got rural. So we said, let's do one really small community of about 35 suites. Let's do one medium of about 60 or 70, and let's do one of 100 suites and over. So we booked those 3 sites, and Tom went out and did the first assessments because we wanted to see if what we wrote in the book is going to work for 30 suites and 150 suites.
And Marlene came with me.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
And we went through and we did it. And you know what? It worked. It worked, and everybody liked it. The smaller, communities sometimes had a bit of a challenge with all of the policies because we asked them, show us what you do for this, now show us your policy, and then show us your procedure. And so that's why we've written the manual, which we'll talk about a little later. So that's how the process started. So in 2009, we had an official launch in Victoria at the Peninsula and the Nurgarden, and we launched the seal of approval. And I think within the first year, we had something like 67 buildings say, pick me, I want mine done. Please come and see. And so it represented to the association that not only do our members know they operate the best, they want to be assessed to say, I am the best. And that was a really important thing for the association and for the industry, we think.
Actually, this is great, and we will continue this conversation because there's a lot of information to cover here. If you want more information, you can find it on the website, bcsla.ca. And coming up next on Boomer Life, we will find out more about the BC Seniors Living Association and how they give their seal of approval to seniors communities around the province. We'll also speak to our special guests, Lydia Miller and Tom Bayliss, about their roles as assessors. It's all coming up next on CL 650.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.